Hey everyone.
Hi.
Yeah. I'm just gonna wait a couple more minutes here and make sure everyone else is here before we start.
Hello, I'm here.
Hey Brandon.
Hey.
Okay, I'm just waiting one more minute here to see if some more people show up and then I'm gonna start.
I like your little headband bonnet thing.
Yeah. It's from Disney. All right, so my clock says 12:30, so I'm just gonna go ahead and start. So this is a copy of the syllabus. So this is on your Canvas page, under the announcements. So just like before, you've got my phone number here. Here's my cell. Here's my email address. And then over on the right, here's all of my hours. So on Mondays, I do a virtual day, which is stupid because it's pretty much just like being here anyway. But 8 to 4 is when that is. And so you could get a hold of me through email if you need to. Tuesdays would be a day that I don't have class at all. So you could, make an appointment with me for whatever you need. 10 to 12 and 2 to 4 are my times. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is when I have classes. So Wednesday, I have 2 classes. I do one in the morning from 8 to 11:45 and then one from 12:30 to 3:20. Then Thursday, I have you guys in the afternoon, which is weird because normally I'm in the morning and Mr. Tibbs is in the afternoon, but they switched just this time. And Fridays, I have class again with another group. So we got class in the morning from 9 to 11:50, and then I have a lab with that same group from 12:30 to 3. So that's kind of what I'm doing for the week. Down towards the bottom here, we have your clinical instructors listed. We've got Mrs. Haslidge and Mrs. I don't know if she wants to be called Stewart, maybe. I don't know. Everyone's hyphenated, so I never know what to call people. So Mrs. Stewart and then Mrs. Joseph. So I have all of their email addresses and phone numbers there for you. Okay, so then as we keep going here, we are supposed to have a total of 45 clinical hours for this class. So, all of the stuff that we assign to you to do with the
Hey, Miss
VSIM and
Silk,
everything. Yes.
we don't see what you're seeing.
Oh,
I see Canvas right now. We don't see your syllabus.
Oh, okay. Well, let me try it again. Hold on.
Yeah, it says you're sharing the screen, but we just see your canvas.
Okay, hold on. I'll try it again. Let's see.
Also, while you're doing that, it said you sent a notice about a math test. We have a math test in both this and psych then?
Probably, yes.
Okay.
All right, let's try this again. How about now? Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. All right. So anyway, like I said, you have 45 total hours for clinical. So the stuff that we tell you to do for VSIM and Shadow Health and stuff, that'll equal that. So you should be fine. Then as we keep going down, we have our same book. So, you know, this big honkin', you know, Hinkle and Cheever book that we use. And then, of course, the ATI book would be your MedSurg ATI mainly. And then, of course, you guys all should still have access to your math book, which is this little dinky one, which I hate, but anyway, that you should have that still somewhere. So those are our main books. And then, of course, you would have like a med book and a lab manual and all of that. If for some reason you don't have something like that, you need to let me know so that we can figure that out and get you access to that stuff. Because don't wait till it's like week 7 and say, oh, I don't have my lab manual or something, because that's, you know, way too late. We need to be taking care of it now. Okay, so on the syllabus here. So the first 2 weeks of class, we talk about respiratory stuff. And honestly, I just put all of the reading in the same place. So like in our big book, it's 20 to 24 of those chapters. And then the ATI book, it's 17 to 26. So I just put that on both weeks here. So you guys, because you know, you can just do the reading accordingly. So we don't have anything that's due today, of course, because I thought that would be ridiculous. So nothing's due today, but next week on the 14th. So we will have our first dosage calculation test. So remember, it's 20 questions. You can miss up to 2. And we'll do some math today with that. So you'll see. So anyway, the other thing that you have due that day is an ATI skills module. So, you know, when you go into ATI to do those modules, my one and only request is that you spend an hour in that module. So you have to print out the module report, and the module report, it'll say module report on it, and you need to spend that hour in there, and I need to see that you've spent time in the content and that you've done the post test. I don't need you to send me the post test, you know, printout. It'll be on the module report if you've done it. So just send me the module report. It needs to have that hour time on there. So many people do like, oh, I'm going to do 50 minutes, or, you know, they do like these real close times. Just please do the hour so I don't have to worry about it. And then you should get credit for that. So that's worth 10 points. That's due next week on the 14th. So week 3, this is when we start into some of the harder content. So this is when we go into endocrine disorders. So week 3, we're going to start with diabetes, which I know you might think is kind of easy, but it's not really as easy as you think. A lot of things about it you may not really be up to par with. So diabetes is that week. And then week 4, we go into the other endocrine disorders, which are what usually everyone has a hard time with. So this would be like, you know, hypo and hyperthyroidism. We talk about Addison's disease and Cushing's and, you know, all these different weird things that maybe you haven't talked about before. So that's week 4. But anyway, going back to week 3. So we'll talk about diabetes that day. You'll have another ATI skills module due. This will be one on chest tubes. Again, spend an hour in it, print out your module report. That's what you turn into me. And then we'll have our first test that day. So it's exam 1. It'll be over just all of the respiratory content. That's it. So that's worth 150 points. So hopefully everyone will do well and it'll be fine. You also will have, you know how we were doing those case studies last term? I just kept that up. So we'll do another unfolding case study. This one's on Lori, This is number 37. So again, you'll print that out, do that, and then turn it into me, and then we'll grade it accordingly. So those are worth 5 points. So that will be due that day as well. I tried to make drop boxes for everything on Canvas. So hopefully you can just turn everything in that way instead of emailing me like we did last term, because that was a pain in the butt. So anyway, anything you would have to turn in, look for, to turning it in on Canvas, and that way I can give you credit that way. If you need to take the second exam for math, that will be next week, or week 3, excuse me. So dosage calculation test 2 would be that day. I would probably handle that, I would do class normally, and then whoever would need to take it, I would just meet with them separately to do it. So that's kind of how we'll handle that. Week 4, as far as anything that would be due that day, again, we're going over all that content about the endocrine disorders, and then we'll actually have a quiz that day. I do one 10-point quiz in this term. It's about diabetes. So hopefully you'll learn a ton, week 3, and then you'll be ready for that diabetes quiz for this week. And it's just, a way to get some extra points. So 10 points for that. And then you'll have another unfolding case study due. This is the one about Jenny. That'll be 5 points. And then we are going to start into our PowerPoint presentations. Normally, if we're on campus, like we would normally be, I would have you guys do presentations in front of the class, and it's done differently. Usually I have people do like these tri-boards, and we do all this other stuff, but because of being online, I had to do something different. So I figured we'll just do PowerPoints, and that'll be kind of similar, which I'll talk about that here after we're done talking about the syllabus. So anyway, there'll be groups of people who go on different days, and then this would be one of the groups here that would go on this day. And that presentation's worth a total of 30 points. Okay, so week 5. Week 5, we start getting into all of the kidney stuff. So we talk about kidney disorders, urinary disorders, you name it. So everything renal. As far as things due that day, we would have an ATI RN targeted medical surgical endocrine online practice 2019 with remediation. I tried to type all of that in there. So anyway, that's, under your, I think it's the test tab for you guys in ATI. So you'll find that. So it's just a test that you'll do, and then you'll do your remediation with it, just like normal. So that will be worth 10 points. And then we'll have our exam 2 that day. Exam 2 is only over 2 chapters, believe it or not, but it's a lot of content. It's weird because you think, oh, 2 chapters, no big deal, but it's just a lot. So beware, that's kind of a doozy. And then another unfolding case study. This one's on Grayson. That's worth 5 points. And then another group of people will do their presentations, and that'll be worth 30 points for them. Week 6, we talk about peripheral vascular disorders and hypertension. That week, we will have another assignment due. This is a ATI RN targeted med-surg renal urinary with remediation. So that will be due that day. It's worth 10 points. We'll have a care plan as well for this class. So that will be due that day as well. And notice the points here. Remember last term it was worth 60, and now it's worth 100 points. So it's a big deal. Case study, there's one on Edwin here that's worth 5 points. And then we have another group of people going for their PowerPoint presentations. And then week 7, we're going to end everything with HIV and AIDS. So we're going to talk about that. That's in chapter 36 in our big book, and then in ATI it's 86. So we'll finish that stuff up, which won't take too long, and then we'll have some more people doing their PowerPoint presentations. We'll do a little bit of a review, and then we'll also have our exam 3. So lots of stuff that day. And then, our final will be, whatever day they tell us it's going to be on. So for everything, you know, for the PowerPoint presentation, that'll be 30 points. Case studies will be, I think there's 4 of them to make up 20 points. ATI assignments, there'll be 40 points of that. That includes the modules and those practice assessments. The quiz is 10 points. Our exams are 450, care plan's 100, and the final exam's 350. So that's how our points go for this term. All right. Questions so far?
Do we have discussion posts that we have to do like
Yeah.
last term?
Yeah.
And are they mandatory? Because I know TIBs are like you have to either attend Zoom or do discussion for attendance.
Now, they want us to do all of that for every class. So I don't know what the heck he's doing, but they want us to do that for every class. So you should at least try to do that every week. All right, let me find some other stuff to show you. Hold on one second. Okay, can you guys see that all right?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. All right, addendum. So that's in your Canvas as well. So you guys have an electronic copy of that. All right, so, you know, normally we have this stupid chart in the beginning and our clinical evaluation that we would normally do. So we'll go through all that, get that out of the way. All right, so in here, basically your addendums for all your policies. So you look here about, you know, any type of policies that you might be concerned about. We also have a copy of, you know, the price of success in here, so you guys remember that. We have, oh, there's an empty page there. I didn't realize that. We still have our test taking success plan. So if you, you know, get less than a 76% on a test, you need to remediate. So that's still a thing. So pretty much test 1 and 2 would be the ones that you would remediate for. If we would have time, then you could do test 3, but usually there's not much time to do that. We talked about the math. So really weeks 2 and 3 would be math tests. So if hopefully you just get it done and over with and you're good week 2, but if you do need the second time, it will be week 3. Let's see what else. Okay. Oh, here's the thing about the ADA policy, if you guys needed that. All right, let's talk about the care plan in a second. Excuse me. All right, so the care plan, it's going to be another scenario one, because I mean, I can't do anything else. We don't have actual patients to give you to do it on. So we're going to do a scenario one. I have it written out already. I have it posted on Canvas. So I tried to put a lot more details on it this time. So hopefully it makes it easier for you guys to do more stuff on there. So with this one, you are going to do 2 nursing diagnoses that you diagnose out. So it's the same thing as we did before. You're going to do 3 priority diagnoses, right? And you're going to put the whole thing on there. So I don't want just activity intolerance and that's all you put. I want you to put all 3 parts under those, you know, priority diagnoses. So put 3 diagnoses, all 3 parts. Then you're going to put, okay, I'm going to pick 2 of those to diagnose out. So you can, it doesn't matter which ones you do. I don't care. It doesn't have to be number 1 diagnosis. You know, it can be number 3 or whatever. So pick 2 of them to diagnose out, and then you're going to do that. So you'll have your diagnosis, you'll have your goal. It's 1 goal per diagnosis. So technically you'd have 2 goals. The goal needs to be short-term, not long-term. It's just easier if you do short-term. And just one goal per diagnosis, so I don't need to have multiple goals there. Then you are going to do your interventions. So again, it just like last time, it would be at least 4 interventions per goal, so a total of 8 interventions altogether for the 2 goals. And then you have to have 1 rationale for each intervention. And then you got to do your evaluation. So in your evaluation, you need to state, goal was met or goal was not met. I don't want to hear that it was partially met or anything like that. It's either met or it wasn't met. So you're going to say that, and then you need to say why you think it was met or not met. And then you need to say, okay, if it was met, can I get rid of this off of my care plan? Can I discontinue this diagnosis from my care plan? So you could say that. And then if it wasn't met, you need to do a revision. So revision means that you're going to write a whole new goal, and that'll just be under that evaluation column. You're going to write a whole different goal. All right, and then, so those are the requirements then for this. Of course, we're not using at-risk diagnoses, so you're not able to do that on this. I really probably would prefer you not using acute pain either, because I feel like everyone constantly looks at that all the time for everything. So I want to see that you're thinking about, other stuff. Last term, people were getting confused about expectations for this. So I just want to be nice and clear about it right off the bat so no one gets, upset at me. So last term, we had a care plan that had to do with someone who had liver problems, like liver cirrhosis. So in your book, if you turn to that chapter, the book sometimes has care plans in there. And I had people who basically just looked at what was in the book and put that on their care plan. You have to understand that when you're doing a care plan, it has to be individualized to the patient. So what's in the book is just a generic whatever that could be used for someone who might have this happening. So it doesn't mean that it's specific to what that guy had going on. So you need to make sure that everything you use is specific to the scenario that I gave you. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
So can you clarify what books you would prefer to get your references from? Just the not the funds book, just the MedSearch?
So any book that you have that is a nursing diagnosis book, I do not want rationales from that. It doesn't mean that you can't use a nursing diagnosis book to help you figure out if a diagnosis would work for your patient. That's fine. But you don't need to cite a nursing diagnosis book then in your care plan if that's all you use it for. Nursing diagnosis books do not have good rationales. They'll maybe be a little bit good, but then they won't take it far enough for what I'm asking you to give me. So and again, in our big book, the Hinkle and Cheever book, a lot of you tried to use stuff out of there, which is fine. But what you need to realize is you need to learn how to paraphrase, because sometimes the book will give you some of it, but you need to say more. And maybe you can say it in your own words, part of it, and then part of it could be in parentheses, So, remember, rationales are asking why or how an intervention works. When you are actually working as a nurse, you never will have rationales. The only reason we have rationales here is to get you to understand why you're doing what you're doing, because a lot of you don't have that understanding, and this kind of forces you to get it. So as far as rationales go, again, learn how to paraphrase, because that's going to be better for you. You'll get more out of it. You're going to get better rationales from your Hinkle and Cheever book. You could use your funds book, that's fine. You could use journal articles. Some people did that before. I'm totally fine with that. That's good. Now, websites are kind of difficult because sometimes you can get a little bit of a good something, but sometimes not. You have to be really careful with websites. If you're going to use a website, I would prefer it be like a government type of a website, not just like a Healthline or a Mayo Clinic or something. You want something that has more clout to it, I guess you could say, because some of those other sites aren't really like that. Now, the other thing with the care plan, APA is now 7th edition. So starting this term, we're supposed to start grading everything by the 7th edition. So I don't know if you guys have access to an APA book, 7th edition or not. It might not be a bad idea to try and get one if you don't have one. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I learned APA this way from so-and-so at Herzing, and so-and-so taught me this way. Well, that's fine. And I'm not trying to say that people are wrong or anything, but when I'm grading it, I'm looking at my APA book. So we need to go by that. I'm going to see if I can find you a couple of references that maybe I can post on our Canvas that might help with 7th edition stuff. There's some slight differences that are just a little weird. So I'll see if I can do that to help you out with that. Any other questions about that stuff?
You'll post this video, right? So when I load up the care plan, I can go back to this video and make sure I do everything. Like, do you know what I mean by that? Like,
Oh, this Zoom, you mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you post this Zoom meeting? This way, when I have my care plan up, I can kind of just go as I.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I have most of this right here in your addendum, and I think I have it also on Canvas somewhere. So you can always look there as well. Okay, so for our assignments, again, we have 2 targeted practice assessments, which are just, 2019 version, not 2016. Make sure you're doing the correct ones. Sometimes people will get into the Learning System RN instead of this one, so just make sure you have the correct one that you're turning in. So you'll do your practice assessment, you'll do your remediation. We're still doing remediation the same way, so you'll have that, the templates that you're going to do instead of critical points. So we want the templates. Those you can find on your ATI. And if you have a hard time, I could probably find some to send to you as well. So again, you're going to do those. And then we have 2 skills modules as well. And I told you again, spend an hour in it and you should be good. So print out your report and we're good with that. Okay, so with the PowerPoint presentation. So each person is going to be assigned a topic for this PowerPoint presentation. You're going to research this topic and present it to the class. The hope is that it's going to help you know your information better about this topic. And sometimes like peer-to-peer teaching is kind of better in a way because you say it in a different way than I might, and maybe someone will understand it better coming from you than me. So that's kind of what this is about. Let's see, where am I at? Okay, so these presentations, I don't want them to be super long. So I don't want you to spend like a half hour talking about something. I want it to be like a 5 to 10 minute kind of a thing. So I don't think you need to have a ton of stuff on these PowerPoints. So I want your PowerPoint presentation to be, neat looking and eye-catching. I said in here at least 10 slides, but no more than 15, including your title page and reference page. So again, we're going to use APA format here, even though you're on a PowerPoint. So you need a title page and you also need a reference page to reference anything, that you got in there. You need to double check everything with spelling because so many of you guys will turn stuff into me that'll have things misspelled. Just do your spell check so you don't forget that. And then whatever day that I've assigned you to, you'll present this to the class. And then, so you know how we do this Zoom. So I would just make it so that you could share your screen and you'd put your PowerPoint up here and you just talk for, 5-10 minutes. And then, you need to be able to answer questions about your topic as well. And that's kind of how this is going to go. Let's see if I have a copy of that right here. Yeah, so I think I posted this somewhere else on Canvas as well. So I have a rubric for this. So you guys should have a copy of the rubric on how I'm going to grade it. And then I have a list of topics and dates of what I assigned everyone. So you guys can see that. So there's going to be 6 people that go on the 28th. That would be the first time that we do this. So those people need to start getting their stuff together and start getting ready. So the rest of these weeks, it'll be like 6 people the following week, and then 4 people the following week because we have so much we're doing that day. And then I think 5 or 6 people at the end. So that's kind of how it's going to go. Questions about that? All right, and then for those unfolding case studies, they're same type of thing as we did last time. There's 4 of them. They're due weeks 3 through 6. There's certain websites that you're supposed to go to that it tells you to go to within, the case study. So if you do that, hopefully you'll be able to answer things correctly. And I get some of them are a little bit difficult to figure out. So just do the best you can with them. And this is how I'm going to grade them. So if you miss nothing to 2 questions, then you're going to get a 5 out of 5. If you miss 3 or 4 questions, you're probably going to get a 4 out of 5. If you miss 6 to 7 questions, you're going to get a 3 out of 5. If you miss 8 to 9, you'll probably get a 2 out of 5. So that's kind of how it goes. And if you don't turn it in, of course, you're going to get a 0. Here is that chart about, remediation stuff. So you know how many templates to do. So that's on here again. We do not have any proctored tests in this class. So the way they do it, it's kind of weird. So because Med-Surg is split into 3 classes, you don't get all of the Med-Surg content all in one term. You get it spread out over a period of time. So you're technically not really ready to take your Med-Surg proctored until way later. So you'll take that almost, I want to say it's the term before your last term, something like that. I think it's in your gerontology class or something. So you don't have any proctors for me. Questions about any of our assignments or anything else that I just talked about?
I have a couple questions about the clinical. If you were going to go ahead and discuss that, I'll wait. But
yeah, I'll get into our Canvas and we'll start talking about stuff.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, hold on one second here. All right, so here's our Canvas page. This is the announcements page that I'm on right now. And I want you to notice I have done things a lot differently this term with how I do this Canvas page, just because I had more time, honestly. That was most of it. So hopefully you're not going to see a whole lot on this announcements page like you did before. It's only going to be like, your syllabus and addendum are here. And then anytime I would invite you to a Zoom meeting, I'd probably put it here. But, for the most part, I won't put hardly anything else on here. So like today I put, and let me just show you this real quick. So someone from Wisconsin sent me this, and I thought it was kind of cool. And whether you want to use it or not, it's up to you, but I just thought I'd put it out there in case you wanted it. So for their class, they must use these notes here. So you can like write up at the top and say, like, I don't know, say we're talking about asthma. You would put asthma here. And then like when you're doing your reading about asthma, you could answer these questions and put them in these boxes here. So, hey, what's the pathophys of asthma? And you'd write it right here and be really
You're not
brief about
showing.
it.
You're not showing the page. We can't see it.
All right, hold on. Jeez.
It must be whenever you open an attachment, it keeps your original screen.
All right, hold on. You see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, so again, you would put your, condition that you're talking about up here, and then you would go down the line here with your reading as you're doing your reading and answer all of these different questions. And then when you have class, the idea would be to get your reading done before class. And then when you have class, take this to class. And then when I talk about it, you could write more stuff here on the other side where it says class notes. So it's kind of cool. It just makes it a little bit more focused, your notes on things that are important. And then the back page is blank here. So you could even do like a concept map or something if you wanted to on that topic there, if you thought that helped you. So just something that I thought might be nice for you to try. All right. I did put a practice math worksheet on the announcements as well. And I don't expect you guys to do that right this second, but it's, something to help you prepare for our math test. So that is there. So let me go into modules. All right, so under modules, this is how things are set up. So up at the top, we have a lot of, good information about, clinical and shadow health and everything right up there, which I'll show you in a second. Then we have our case studies. So you could go into each one of these and get into your case study, okay? Underneath that, which I probably don't need this anymore because that's up at the top. I'll get rid of that. Here's our care plan. So here's your care plan scenario and directions. So here's the whole scenario, the directions at the bottom there. And then this is the template for the care plan. The same, this is the big one. So this isn't the one that we used last term. The one we used last term was real brief because the scenario I gave you was really brief. This one actually has information about like labs and meds and some other stuff. So you're going to use this one. This is that big one that I gave you last term. So you'll see when you get in there. Sorry, I keep hitting the wrong button. Okay, there we go. All right, so anyway, I have all of that there. Here's the thing about your PowerPoint presentation. So the directions are there and the list of topics with date is here. And then I have everything set up into different weeks. So for our week 1, if you go into reading, it'll tell you, you know, which chapters to read. Sometimes I even have other stuff there. Like here I have this article that's about COPD that's pretty good to read. So I have that there for you. And then, gee whiz, keep going into the wrong thing. Then also, I have videos for pretty much every week, and then I have handouts. So like, you know, some of those picture handouts that I normally would give in class, I tried to do that again, and I put them in here. So like for respiratory, see if it works. I don't know if it'll open or not. So there's a bunch of them here for respiratory. Can you see that or no?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know if you could see what I'm opening up or not. So anyway, there's a ton of stuff in here. So you guys can take a look at those. All right, and then I also have our PowerPoints in here for each week. So when you click on these, it'll open up like this. And then you just need to double click on this download up here, and then you can open it up further. So you don't have to like look at it like this, you could open it up further. So they should all be on there. So I should have every week already done, I believe. I don't think I missed anything. So all of that's there for you. Okay, so then for clinical stuff. So I know there's a group of you who haven't had clinical yet that's going to have it tomorrow. So when you go into your clinical stuff, you can just be on our page and it'll take you right into the things that you need to do. So Herzing did this term new. They decided to do like a single sign-on kind of a thing. So now, like if I want to get into vSim or DocuCare, I just have to go here to vSim and DocuCare and I can click on that and it'll take me right there. You know, and then I just put in my stuff. Darn it. Sorry, I keep hitting the wrong button. And same thing for Shadow Health. There's a link that takes you right into that as well. So this term, they did not give us access codes to give to people. You guys were supposed to get those through the bookstore, I guess. So everyone should already have their access codes. In here under, let me share this again since I got out of that accidentally. In here up at the top under Read Me First, again, you know, here's where you get into both of those things, you know, at the bottom, Shadow Health and vSim DocuCare. But the one up above that where it says virtual clinical and lab information, if you get into that, this has pretty much everything you need in here. So if you have an issue with getting into vSim or you have a problem like your code doesn't work or something weird, you have technical support right here. So you can contact them and has their hours and everything and what to do there. So if you have a problem, that's what you're supposed to do, is to try and fix it that way. With Shadow Health, there's stuff for that down here at the bottom for technical support. So all of that's on this page. The other thing, last term we weren't really, I don't think any of the clinical groups were doing this. I don't know. You guys tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we were really filling out all these papers that they had having to do with this. So they put all of this in here for us now, so we could just get to it real easily. So I don't know if you, let me see if you can see this if I open some of these things. Hopefully you
While
can.
you're doing that, Miss Sanner in psych clinical, we had to do all of those, and for us, they were due last night. But so the shadow health thing, is that for adult 2 clinicals?
Yeah,
Okay, when are those due?
you'll see. I'm getting there.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay, so do you guys see this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so this is the VSIM clinical instructions. So technically for all your VSIMs, you're supposed to be doing all of these different steps. So they say, you know, after you do that suggested reading that they tell you to do in the beginning, then you're supposed to complete these activities. So clinical worksheet, the concept map, the farm for fun, ISBAR thing. All of these are in that page I was just in, which I'll show you here in a second. So you'll have access to that. You just print it out right there. Then you do the pre-simulation quiz. Then you do your virtual VSIM. Then you do the post quiz. Remember the post quiz we want you to have 100% on. And then you go to your DocuCare and do your documenting. And then you have reflection questions that you're supposed to do. So I get that there's a lot of steps and a lot of different things to do, but the thing is, all of that adds up in time and it helps you meet your requirements. So make sure you're doing all of these things so that you meet your requirements like you're supposed to. Brandy, what was your question?
You answered it. I was going to ask if we had to do all of the steps or certain ones, but I
Okay,
guess you got to do all of them.
okay. Anyone else have a question about that stuff?
So for the weeks that we just have shadow health, like what documentation do we have to fill out then? Because it seems like the first week we just have
Yeah.
shadow health.
Shadow Health doesn't really have a lot of like paper type things to do like VSIM does. So you're not going to have stuff like that really to do. Let me get in here. So the weeks that you have shadow health to do, when you go in here, let me share this and see if you can see it. Can you see that? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So when you get in here, there's really not like papers associated with this that you would fill out like there is for VSIM to turn in. So I've been telling the clinical instructors to like have you guys do med cards at least every week. So whatever med cards they would assign to you, you could turn in, you know, in a Dropbox or whatever, but otherwise there's nothing for you to turn in. So you would do whatever assignment you had on here, like say it was this farm orientation, you would just do that. And then your clinical instructor would be able to come in here and see that you did it. There's nothing that you really need to print out to prove that you were in there because it's already in here. It's like, look, I'll pull this up. View student results book. So when I pull this up, it'll say who was in here already and completed it. And then if I want to look at it, I just need to go in to someone's that says completed. And I could go through everything that they did, you know, thing by thing here, and it'll give me a transcript of everything they said and did. And then I can leave you comments. So if I'm your instructor, they should be leaving you comments about things that you did well or things that you need to improve on. That's all that is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So really, this part of it's simpler than VSIM, you know? So this stuff, to me, I don't think this stuff takes as long. So your stuff in here, you'll get done with a lot quicker than you will the VSIM stuff. I'll make sure that I touch base with the clinical instructors pretty much every week to make sure they know what you're doing every week. So like my expectation would be that you would meet with your clinical instructor in the morning of your clinical and say, okay, this is what the assignment is for this week. So you guys need to be doing this, this, and this, and just kind of touch base with everyone, make sure everyone's on the same page with what they're doing, if anyone has any questions, and then get off there. And then everyone would go off and do their clinical stuff, you know, because it's your clinical day. So you should be going to work on that right then and there. And then later on in the day, you meet up again with your clinical instructor, and then you could do a post-conference. And so, you know, say, I don't know, say you were talking about asthma that day in your VSIM or something. You could, you know, do all kinds of stuff in your post-conference having to do with that. Or if people had questions or they needed help with something, you know, that could be addressed right there. So that's kind of what I'm thinking for clinical. Any thoughts or questions?
Looking underneath the worksheet templates, you have simulation assignment links, and I guess those are the 4 people we do clinicals with for adult 2. It says like Edith Jacobson, Kim Johnson, things like that.
Yeah.
But it says when you have completed a simulation, complete the worksheet and click on the assignment link below to submit your assignments. Is that talking about the worksheet templates?
Hold on, let me get to that page.
Sorry, it's on the virtual clinic and lab information page. Just, you know, while we're talking about random things, I just want to make sure.
When you have completed a simulation, complete the worksheets and then click on the corresponding link to below to submit your assignment. So yeah, so the worksheets that you do for those VSIMs, you know, the ones up above here, the concept map, the farm for fun, all of those things, after you print those out and do them, you would save them and then turn them in under these assignment links.
And those are just due by the end of class, kind of like it was last time?
So what I was telling people to do is like say, which I don't remember what it is for this coming week. I think it's Edith Jacobson that you do this coming week, but if that's the one that you do for week 2, then like say you have clinical on Monday. So if that's the one that you do, you work on it that day. If you don't get done with it, you don't get done with it. You could work on it another day too. That's fine. But you
Well,
do
like,
you do your work and then you turn it in. But it's technically not done until the following week. It's due the following week.
because like for psych clinical, we had a patient, but we had to do all the worksheet templates the same day and they were due that night. So I was just curious. I'd rather you don't do that.
Yeah,
But,
I'm not doing that. I'm just having everything, like you have a week to get things done, basically.
okay.
So I prefer you to work on it that day because that's your clinical day and that's your time. But like I said, you know, there's a lot to do. Sometimes you don't have time to get it all done. So I'm just giving you a week to get it done. And so
Okay.
you would have till that following week.
Okay. And we'll do these with the clinical instructor, not with you. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Sorry to take over.
No, you're fine. Okay, any other questions about that stuff?
I got a question. So are we able, I haven't opened them up yet. I don't understand how we can do those before we do the actual VSIM. I think you have to get the answers or the question, answer the
Yeah,
questions.
you
after
don't.
So basically what I would do, I would print those sheets out and just have them with you as you're doing stuff.
Hey, Brandy, what I did was I had the VSIM open with the actual module and DocuCare open in another window. And then I filled out the worksheet templates and I just tabbed over to the DocuCare and the VSIM. And then you can kind of just copy and paste a lot of stuff too. It's not too bad.
So how do you, can you type on those,
Yes.
those sheets, or
Yes, you can
do you have
type
to
on them.
print and scan and all that? So you can
No,
just
no,
type
no. You
right
can
on
just type it.
Yeah, just type it.
Okay.
Brandy, it's not too bad. I did all 5 of them in an hour and a half, so it's not that bad.
Okay. Thank you.
You can always email me if you have any questions too. I got you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions about any of that stuff? Okay. All right, so this is the thing. Every week then, when you come to work on our class, we need to meet like twice. So our class, normally if we were on, on ground on the campus, we'd be there together for like 4 hours, and it's only once a week. So instead of sitting on here for like a super long period of time, I just want to meet in shorter periods of time. So I would meet sometime towards the beginning of class, then we would get off of here for a little bit, and then we would meet towards the end of class again to go through some other stuff. So that's kind of what I was going to do today as well. So what time would you guys like to come back on to finish up?
Like for lecture?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a weekend warrior at a nursing home, so I'm free all day. So it's up to other people.
Because I think, what are we technically supposed to be done at 4:15 or something? Like I was going to say we could come back on at 3 or something.
If you come back on at 3, how long are you gonna stay on?
Well, I'm going to do my stuff,
I mean-
it's our class time. So
No, what I'm saying is if the class is supposed to end at 4:15 and you come on at 3, is
Yeah.
it gonna take you like 2 hours, 3 hours?
no, I'm not going to go past our class time is what I'm saying. So I'm not going to be on here for like a super long period of time going through everything is what I'm saying. So
Okay.
like this part of our class, of course, was just all of this kind of stuff. And then I'm going to do a little bit of math with you right now too, before we get off here now. But then when we come back on again later, that's when I would do our content.
Okay, I got you. I just was curious if you was trying to like do like the whole day on a Thursday. Not the whole day, but beyond the time.
No.
Okay, that's fine. Thank
I
you.
just assumed we'd be like 8 to 4:30 today from both classes, so I don't care, whatever.
Yeah, it's not good for us just to sit in the front of the computer for like hours on end like this. So it's just nice to be able to have a little bit of break in between to,
I
have
mean,
a
I'll play
breather.
games for 12 hours straight, so I'm good.
No, because my leg's already hurting. I need to get up and stretch.
So what do you want me to do? Like 2:30?
I
What,
think 3 sounds good.
3's
Yeah.
okay? Okay. All right, so that's what we'll plan. But before we get off here, let's look at some math, okay? So our math test is supposed to be 20 questions, and it's going to have quite a few different things on it. So I want to just go over some stuff and make sure everyone feels comfortable with what they're doing. Let me see if I can do this or not. I don't know if this will work. Okay, so there are 2 time problems on this math test that I put on. So we did this last term on a couple of our tests where we would have a problem that said something like, the order says to infuse 500, this is hard to write like this. Let me see if I can do this. 500 milliliters of normal saline at 50 milliliters per hour. And it says if the infusion started at 4:30, so 4:30 in the morning, what time would this be done? So your answer then would be, what time is this done? So how would you figure that out?
Well, I know the answer. It's, I think, 10 hours.
Milliliters
Okay.
divided by the hours.
I'm sorry, someone broke up. What was that?
Do milliliters divided by the hours.
Yeah, so you take your volume, the 500, and you divide it by 50. And so Brandon said you get 10.
Yep.
So if you started it at 4:30 in the morning, you add 10 to that. So what would that be? What would your time be?
I'm totally not counting on my fingers, so hold on.
Well, without doing that, Brandon,
2:30.
yeah, 2:30. Because look at this. If I just put 10 right here, what's that equal?
I mean, you could do it that way.
14:30, right? So there's your answer. So the first two questions on our math test are going to be just like this, okay? And here's another one, which I'm going to just tell you without writing because it's hard to write it on here. Okay, so if your volume was 1,000 milliliters and your order was to infuse that at 100 milliliters an hour, and you started it at 5 in the morning, when would it be done?
Four p.m.
Well,
or 3 p.m.
3 p.m.
Sorry, I was doing the military clock wrong.
That's okay. So yeah, again, this one would be, hey, you take 1,000 milliliters, you divide it by 10, or excuse me, divide it by 100, and you get 10. So it takes 10 hours for that to go in. So then if we said it starts at 5 in the morning, you just add the 10 to that, and you would get 1,500, which would be 3 o'clock. Does everyone feel okay with those?
Yeah.
Those are pretty easy, I think. And I made sure that these are super easy ones. They're not going to be ones where you have to figure out the minutes. Okay. It's just basic times like this, like we just did. Okay. So that's your first two questions on the test. It's something like that. And then we have, let's see if I can do this again. Let's see. Okay, so we have two medication labels that you'll see the next two problems. So there'll be a medication label. I don't know. Say it says lisinopril. The order is for. I'm trying to think. The order is for 2.5 milligrams PO daily, and what you have in your bottle of lisinopril is 5 milligram pills. So how many would you get?
You said the order is for 2.5
Mm-hmm.
and you have 5 milligram.
Yeah,
You would give a half.
correct. So real simple like that, okay? So the next two are like that, where you just, you know how when you look on a medication label, how it'll just say, I don't know, it just depends on the label. It'll say either so many milligrams per tab or capsule, or it'll say so many milligrams per milliliter. And so you're looking for that, and then you'll look at whatever else the question asks you and then put it together. So it'll be real easy. So the next two questions are like that. Then I think there's three questions that are pretty much just like those, except they won't have a medication label to look at. They'll be just plain. I'm just trying to remember how I put this. All right, and then I believe the very next question is, let me switch things here a second so I can see. I think it's, I did some reconstituting problems, which we did that last term as well. So let's just review that a second. So if I give you, a question that says, all right, so we need to give 125 milligrams of Solumedrol. Oh, this isn't going to write for me, darn it. So if someone write that down, 125 milligrams. So the medication that's available is in a powder form. It's 500 milligrams in a vial. So you have directions on how to reconstitute this. And so it says you're supposed to add 8 milliliters of sterile water to this powder to reconstitute it. And then after you do that, the concentration should be 62.5 milligrams per milliliter. And then it says, basically, how many milliliters are you going to give per dose? So basically, you take what the order was for, and that was 125 milligrams of Solu-Medrol. That's what we need. And then after you reconstitute the med, you need the concentration. That's the only other thing you need in here. So all of the other stuff is just like extra stuff that you don't need in the problem. So when it says 62.5 milligrams per milliliter after you reconstitute it, that's what we need to figure this out. So if you set it up like a ratio proportion, then what would you get? Are you all totally lost or no one's talking?
It's easier for me to see the problem. That's what I'm trying to do.
I wonder if I can do it this way. Let me see if I can try this way. It's hard to do it on this whiteboard. So this is what your ratio proportion would be like. So the 125 was what was ordered. That's what we want. And then after we reconstituted it, it said the concentration was 62.5 in 1 milliliter. So if you worked this out, what would you get?
2?
2. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, too.
Yeah, exactly. So that's all those are. So just remember, don't get screwed up with all the other junk in the problem, because that you don't need. You just need your order and the concentration after you reconstitute it. Okay. There is also going to be some conversion stuff on here. There's like 5 conversions, which it might say, hey, you have someone who's 155 pounds. How many kilograms are they? Or someone, or you have, I don't know, 3 teaspoons of something. How many milliliters is that? You know, stuff like that. So there'll be 5 of those. There are 2 drops per minute questions. And remember, drops per minute questions would be like, I don't know, say I have my volume, say it's like 700, let's see, times my drop factor, which I don't know, say it's 10. And then you divide that by what the time is in minutes. So I don't know, say it's, let's say it's like 480 minutes or something. And then that would, you know, give us our drops per minute. Which this would come out to be like 14.58 something or other. So of course you would just round however it says to round. So there's 2 of those. There are a couple of heparin problems, and I need to show you those real quick. So heparin problems, they're not as bad as you think. A lot of people get really freaked out about them because there's a lot of steps and stuff, but really they're not that bad. Let me stop sharing this just a second so I can find what I'm looking for.
I can't wait till we're all on ground again.
I know, this is such a pain. I keep having to flip through screens to find stuff, and it's just a pain. All right, so with heparin problems, there are 2 of those on this math test. And like for your first math test or your first actual test for us for the class, you'll have 2 heparin problems on there as well. So if I give you an order for heparin, and my order, I don't know, I'm just going to make up some numbers. Let me write this down, and then I'll flip back to the other screen. So my order might be for 1,500 units of heparin to be given. And what I have available is a bag of heparin that has 25,000 units in 500 milliliters. And then your problem would say, how many milliliters per hour of heparin will you give? So you would take what you have on hand, that 25,000 units, and put that over your 500 milliliters. And then the only other thing the problem tells you is what the order was for, which was units. And we said 1,500 units. So that's going to be on the top. Okay, let me get back to the other screen now. Let's see, how did I do that before? Text, I think. There we go. Okay, so again, we said that we had 25,000 units in 500 milliliters of a bag of heparin. Okay, so that's what we have on hand. So that's what what we know we have, we're going to write down first. And then the only other thing that the problem told us was that we needed 1,500 units of heparin to be given. And because units is the only thing that we know, that would go on top. Which this is kind of writing this stupid, but basically it would be on the other side over here. So if you figured this out, what would you get? You would do 500 times 1,500. And that would be like 750,000. And then you're going to divide that by 25,000.
I got 30. Oh, wait. Hold on. Times.
I got 30 as well, but I don't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah, I got
30.
30.
Oh,
You're
okay.
right.
Ebony was right. She said 30, and then but what I just did is, I guess I set it up the same way as we did the other problems. Like I had put 1,500 as the unit, and then I divided it by the 25,000, multiplied it by 500, and I got 30.
Okay, that's fine. I just don't want you to get screwed up for the next thing I'm going to show you, because if you know how to set it up like I'm trying to show you now, then
Okay.
you shouldn't get screwed up for this next type of problem.
Okay.
So do you understand what I'm trying to show you or not?
Yeah. I just wrote it down the way you just showed me. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Now, if we had another problem like this and it just gave us milliliters, so like say it said the order was to give 30 milliliters an hour of heparin. Okay, so we'll look at the same problem. So if our order was to give 30 milliliters an hour and we knew we had 25,000 units in 500 milliliters, we would set it up the same way, except now this 1,500 units would be gone, right? So we would have our X on the top for units because now we're looking for units. And on the bottom, it would be the 30 milliliters per hour. So anytime in the problem, if it's asking you for units, you have to make sure that everything lines up. So if I have milliliters an hour and I have milliliters here, then I'm going to put those on the same level. They're right across from each other. If I have units, I would put units to units. So if you figured this out, what would you get? You guys getting 1,500?
Yep, I got 1,500.
1,500.
Okay. All right, so you will have one problem like this on the math test, and then there's going to be one that's a little bit more complicated. So that's the one I'm going to show you now. Okay, so this next one, here, I have to look at and change numbers for a second, and then I'll come back on. All right, so let's say our order is for heparin, let's say 18 units per kilogram per hour. And then we have a weight that goes with this. Let's say our weight is 86 kilograms. And then what we have available is heparin, 25,000 units and 500 milliliters. And then it's going to ask you, how many milliliters per hour would you set this IV pump at? So this is what we do now. Let me get back on here with you so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. I don't know if this will let me type everything I want to type, but here's the problem again. So our order was for heparin, 18 units per kilogram per hour. And then we said our weight equals 86 kilograms. And then what we have available is 25,000 units in 500 milliliters of heparin, basically. So that's heparin there. I just didn't write the heparin. All right, so to figure this out, there are different steps that you need to do. There's like basically 3 steps. So step 1, write this down in your notes. Step 1, you fix the weight first. So if the weight was in pounds, we would have to change that, but it's in kilograms already, so we don't have to do that. So step 1, if it's in pounds, change it to kilograms, okay? So that's your first step. Your second step, anytime you have a problem like this, whether it's heparin or whatever, if it's a problem that says such and such per hour, like it's 3 things there, you are going to take your weight times that. So in this, we're going to take 86 times 18. And what'd you guys get when you do that?
1548.
Okay. And so when we do this, when we multiply 86 times 18, you see how we can get rid of kilograms when we do that. So now this 1548 is going to be in units per hour. So 1548 units per hour. All right, so now that we know that, we need to plug it in. So this is our third step. So let me see if I can put another. There we go. So we already know we have this. And so now we know we have 1548 units per hour. So that 1548 is going to go on top, the same part as where that units is. So and now figure out that. What did you guys get?
Are we supposed to do like the previous step? You take
Yeah,
the
just
25,000. Okay.
just like we did
So
before.
okay, so I got 30.96.
Yep, that's exactly right. So of course, you know, I might say to round it to a whole number or something. If you were going to round that to a whole number, it'd be 31, right? And
Yep.
this would be milliliters per hour that you would set your pump at for this to run. Now, if we had another question like this and we had a weight that was different, like say we had 120 pounds or something. So how would you figure that out in here? So again, you do it in steps. So you change your weight. So you take 120 pounds divided by 2.2. And then whatever you get, you're going to multiply that by your 18. And then that's going to be in units per hour. And then you would just plug it in here again.
$20 if you round it up.
Make sense? Anyone super lost, or you guys feel okay, or what?
I mean,
I
I'm
wanna-
good. I'll just practice and rewatch this video a few times.
Yeah, me too.
They're not that bad. I'll give you some stuff to practice with, so it should be fine. But yeah, so that's the two types of heparin problems that you're going to see on the math test. There'll be one like this and one basic one like the other one. So two of those. And then for the last three problems on the math test, it's just going to be milliliters an hour questions. So it might say, hey, you need to, here, let me see what the heck it says. You have so many milliliters that you have to give over so many hours. How many milliliters an hour is this going to be? So you basically just divide and you get your answer. So that's the extent of our math test. It's going to be a little bit of all of those things. So the practice worksheet that I put on your announcements is problems just like that with different numbers. So you guys could do that. Okay.
Yep.
All right, guys, use the same Zoom code and we'll just come into the same thing here when we come back at 3. And then when we come back, I'll go over some content with you and we'll see what we can get through. Okay.
All right. We get a nice hour break. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. I'll see you guys in a little while.